Hi there, it's Rose, Electra Harris. I'm running a tutorial on drawing tulips and the kitchen table. I thought I'd introduce myself first. I am an artist, printmaker, usually live in South London, but currently in isolation at my parents' house. So I've kind of recreated a studio as much as possible. It's really interesting working in a new environment. In this time, it took me quite a while to sort of get my head into making mode. There was a lot of thinking time, a lot of sort of reassessing everything time, and I feel like I finally sort of turned a corner. And these are some little exercises that I have been doing, which just like loosen me up, because that's a really great time to be creative as much as possible without putting pressure on yourself. So I hope these exercises are helpful. I studied printmaking at Brighton Art School, and I've continued to do printmaking in London in both screen printing and etching mostly. Obviously my resources are limited at the moment, and so it's a really good time for drawing. There's a drawing I'm doing behind me which is using a lot of colour. I've been drawing lots of spring flowers because obviously it's great for this time of year. I thought I'd show you some other. I draw a lot of interiors. I love drawing still lives. I love playing with space. I love objects, like decorative objects, and how they relate to each other. I use a lot of colour and pattern. I'm obsessed with artists such as Betty Woodman, Matisse, Hockney, Patrick Heron, Gauguin. I mean, there are so many to name. And then I quite like things being a bit surreal, a bit dreamlike. My perspective is always a bit distorted. What I'm drawing is never perfect, but I really like that. I like that things can be wobbly, things can be not right, not kind of typically correct, but it kind of gives them charm. So this is these small drawings I've been doing in ink and pastel. It's really nice to sort of change your size because just changes things up a little bit. You can obviously be a bit like tighter when you go small, so it's sort of good and bad, but try and whichever works for you. For today's drawing class on tulips, I'm going to be using newsprint. You can use any paper you want. I just like using it because it's cheap. I like that it's off-white, and it's just very easy to use for lots of different materials. I'm also going to be using charcoal, oil pastels, like these, and chalk pastels. You just get a variety of marks, different marks with different materials, so they're just going to be very quick exercises showing how you can use different materials. But you can obviously, if you want to use felt tips or colouring pencils, go ahead, that's fine. This is what I'm using because I use it a lot in my work. So thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you enjoy the class. I am going to actually start with drawing just the small, I don't know if you can see from here, but it's just a small bottle with 2 flowers in it. They're quite daunting as like a huge vase of them because there's just so much like going on, so I'm just going to start with a small one and then work away. These are actually parrot tulips, so they've got these sort of frilly edges which I really like, but I found them quite hard to draw. So I'm going to do some smaller kind of quick exercises. I've got charcoal here, and I've also got some references which I always tend to have with me. I really like these drawings by Matisse of a vase of flowers. I can show you if you can see there. These are just simple line drawings in black, and he's not making them look perfect. He's sort of obviously drawing what he sees, but every drawing is different, and I've got some newsprint here, so I was going to do some quite quick drawings and focus on different parts. So I'm not going to try and draw the whole thing at once. I might draw one flower, one section of the drawing up close, and I'll keep on changing the paper so I don't become too obsessed with making everything look perfect. I've been finding it quite hard to be like super motivated at the moment with drawing, and I'm getting kind of bogged down in everything having to be a certain way, so it's really good to just do these fast exercises and put them aside and not look at them, and then you can look at them at the end all together and see how they look. So we're going to try to do that and see how we get on. So I will tend to start with the actual vase it's in. I try and just do it quite fast and swiftly because otherwise I'll become a bit obsessive about everything being right. A bit wobbly, but that's fine. I'm going to make them just so they're floating, which actually I quite like. I start most of my drawings with just one object and then I kind of work my way out. So sometimes I decide to have things kind of floating in a room or on a table or wherever, but that's how I'm just going to start this one. So then the stem going up, and then we're going to just try and keep whatever you're drawing with. I'm using charcoal just because it's sort of quite forces you to use quite confident lines without you know, being able to rub them out. And you can rub them, but we don't want to get too worried about things not being right. So I'm just keeping the charcoal on the page and letting it sort of draw almost for me, just really looking at what I'm seeing. Not drawing how I imagine it should look, just drawing what I'm seeing. That's one. These tulips are a bit old, so they're looking not, I kind of like that. So we're not getting much like depth of the flower itself, but I just actually really like the outline. Let's just stand back and have a look. Yeah, so you probably wouldn't be able to tell that is a tulip from looking at it, but I really like just that like simple line drawing. If I wanted to, I could take charcoal, whatever you're using, and just create some sort of variety of shadows. So this here, if you see, there's the leaf and then there's shadow behind it. So I'm going to draw in that leaf, or that flower, and then I'm just going to make it kind of just using the side of my charcoal almost, just a bit like, again, very roughly, just a bit darker behind so there's some contrast. So it might give you the impression that this leaf is, this part of the plant is closer to us. Yeah, so I actually really like that, but it doesn't necessarily look exactly like what's in front of me, but I just like that I've gone for it and not worried too much. I tend to not use that much black in my work. I mean, I'll add black, but I never start with black normally. I sort of would start with colour because that's just the way I work. I kind of like that there's this boldness with colour, which you can actually get with black. I just choose to use colour. And then you kind of can see how colours start working around each other as you add more. But again, I like just this being black and white. This time I'm gonna actually use colour. I'm gonna use oil pastels because I really love them. But if you have a colouring pencil or a felt tip or anything, really see how you get on. I'm gonna not necessarily choose green or purple. I'll choose another colour. Actually, the green dry from this, I will use green. I think I'm gonna just start doing the whole thing in green. I'm going to draw the big pot, vase. Depending on the size I start with and how much I can fit in, I'm not going to try and fit in everything. I'm just going to get like a section of it. So I really like how these leaves like bend are coming through. Yeah, okay. Let's see how I get on. So that's coming out, the leaf there. Again, I'm just keeping as much as possible the material I'm using on the page. I mean, just fluid marks that are not, I'm not being precious about them. You want more than anything that you're drawing, whatever it is, to feel energy. And I think with most of my work, I don't try and make things look exactly like they're meant to look. I kind of let them have a bit of a character of their own. Or I kind of like when chairs, for instance, have legs of different lengths. Yeah, try as hard as possible to not worry about it being perfect. It's easier said than done, obviously. So I might just roughly colour in. I might use a different green for the leaves. Again, this obviously depends on what materials you've got. So there's a slight contrast in colour, but it doesn't matter if it's not. You can just do denser areas of the same colour, but just so it stands out a bit. Kind of letting the material move on its own a bit as well. I like the weight of these pastels. I like holding them at the end, so yeah, you don't have that much control. So you get the sense that, like behind this leaf, for instance, I'm drawing, I don't know if you can see, but I'm drawing this leaf here. So even though I can see its edges and it's not all dark, I'm gonna just do that. Because I like the contrast. So there's a lot going on, so I'm sort of choosing the ones I want to put in because otherwise I'll be here for ages. So I'm just gonna, again, see what I see in a very like simple form. You can even exaggerate them if you want. I quite like it when you have things that aren't, the perspective isn't correct. You could have a really big flower. So I tend to, when I'm choosing colours, it can either be like the first colour I see in my, in front of me, or it can just be really how I'm feeling. I know it's not very helpful, but it's sort of an instinctive decision. So now I'm gonna draw some highlights of the flowers. You can see on these leaves here that they're like, I don't know if you can see, maybe if I bring one closer. Sorry, it's a bit bright. I mean, they have different shades on them, different marks. So I'm gonna just have a go doing that, but again, sort of just see it in a very kind of simplistic form. And then I'm going to choose a sort of colour for the background. I know this is a lot easier with the materials that I'm using, and I'm doing it large because I want you to be able to see. So you can do it obviously as small or on different sizes as you want. I kind of like when it comes in right behind, so you could just choose little sections of red that's coming behind. Just sort of brings it out. We just want the picture to have energy to it. Yeah, I actually quite like that. I mean, it's very different from this one, but it's just a different way of drawing, and it's using colour. And I haven't included everything in the vase, as you can see, but you get the idea of what it is as a drawing. So yeah, so that's, I'm going to do one more, which is going to be just a section of one flower. I'm going to draw this. If I bring it out, sort of. Sorry, the sun's directly on it, but I just like the shape of it, and I'm going to do it in one colour. I'm probably going to just use chalk pastel. Actually, I'm also going to, this is the other Matisse reference, which is again just a leaf, and that's in charcoal. So I'm going to use a chalk pastel. He's rubbed it out, he's like drawn, rubbed it out, drawn over, rubbed it out, drawn over. So we can try that depending on how it looks. Okay, I'm actually going to use a blue just because it will be more visible for you. So I'm going to draw just very loosely. Again, I really like chalk pastel because you have to again be quite like, I mean you don't have to, I choose to be quite bold and confident in my lines, even if they're not, I'm not taking ages to study what I'm drawing, I'm just looking at it and just keeping the chalk on the page and moving it as I look. I'm gonna, from where I'm standing, this part is obviously closer to me than the inside of the flower. So although if you're looking at it now, it's pink and yellow, and I'm going to use one colour, so I'm just going to shade it, the bit that's closer to me. Just so you get some kind of idea. Again, there's a little bit on this part that's curling round towards me, so that's sort of giving some shape and some kind of a bit of three-dimensional. I live right next to a farm in Wiltshire, so you might be able to hear the cows who have suddenly got very chatty. So what I'm going to do now is just work into the other flowers, but pretty lightly, because I like that there's a contrast between different things, leaves, flowers. I just like adding bits of contrast. These are from the leaves and the shading on them from what's the light's coming from behind you. So if I want, I can rub these out. And then just work back on top, which is quite nice. So I'm not going directly over the lines I made before, but that's okay. I'm going to just use what's on my finger to sort of mimic how the movement of these different leaves on the flower. And then I'm going to go back into them. So you can kind of get an idea where they're all coming from this central point. And so for all the leaves, all the different sections of the flower are kind of going back. Yeah. And leave that white, because I actually really like that as being different. So let's have a look at it. Yeah, so I really like that, and they're all really different, but I think they all have movement. But these two obviously are similar in style, of just line and a bit of shading. And then this one is a bit faster, a bit more kind of, I'd say abstract. I mean, it's not abstract, but it's just like, yeah, it's filling in the space, being very relaxed about use of colour, just trying, and you can use as much colour as you want. I just used these ones because I was doing it fast, but they're just really good exercises to make you focus on what's in front of you, and not get, as I said, bogged down about the final outcome, if the perspective's right, if the shape of the vase is right with the flowers or whatever. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope it's been helpful, and I hope that you'll use these exercises for drawing other things as well. Please do let me know if you have any questions. You can email me or message me on Instagram. I'm Electra Harris on Instagram. Please tag me and Partnership Editions if posting about these online tutorials. I hope everyone is safe and try and stay positive during these times, and thanks again. Bye.